afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. Like a lamb that is led to the slaughter, and like a sheep that before its shearers is silent, so he opened not his mouth. So there was a police officer, and he had set up a speed trap, and he was sitting there waiting, and all of a sudden, the car went flying by. And he looks at the radar gun, 60-mile-an-hour speed limit, 80 on here. So he fires the lights up, and he drives over, and he pulls them over, and he walks up to him, and it's an older couple sitting in the car. And he walks up, and he says, "Sir, do you know why I stopped you?" "No, officer, I don't know at all." "Well, I stopped you because you were going 80 miles an hour in a 60-mile-an-hour zone." "Oh, sir, that can't be possible. I never speed. I always drive the speed limit." The wife in the passenger seat says, "No, you don't. I'm constantly telling you to slow down." The man shot her a dirty look and then went back to a big, sweet smile for the police officer. The police officer said, "And while we're talking about it, you also didn't have your seatbelt on. I watched you put it on as I walked up to the car." "Oh, no, officer, that can't be true. That can't be true. Because I always wear my seatbelt." The wife says, "No, you don't. I'm constantly telling you to put your seatbelt on." Oh, he had had it. He looks at her and he says, "Woman, can you just for once keep your big trap shut?" And the officer was a little worried about that. He was a little scared about that attitude. So he walked around to the other side of the car and he leaned in and he said, "Ma'am, does he often talk to you like that?" And she says, "Oh, no, officer, almost never." And then she looks at her husband, she gave him a little smile, and she looks back at the officer and she said, "Except when he's been drinking." I went out and was shaking hands out the little table out here, and Neil says, "I didn't get stopped on the way here. I read your sermon." So, next to last week of the long journey home, looking at the story of the prodigal son, next week we wrap up 8 weeks of this. I don't know about you, but I've said at different spots along the way, when I was planning this, I kept thinking, 8 weeks? Really? 8 weeks on that story? I'm not looking for anything in return, but I've enjoyed digging into this story. There's a lot of meat on this bone. So next to last week, just a reminder that we talk about the Reader's Digest version every week, just to remind us all about the story. So here it is. One man, 2 sons. Younger son wants his inheritance. He gets it. He runs off, squanders it in the big city on wine, women, and song. Flat broke, ends up feeding pigs, wants to eat their food, but no one will give it to him. Comes crawling back to Dad. Dad greets him with open arms, kills the fatted calf, throws a huge party. The older son comes back, finds out he's hacked off. Dad says, "Buck up." Okay, so where are we in that story? Well, as you know, younger son ran off, squandered all his money. Famine hit. Had to take a job feeding pigs. Remember, he's a Jewish male in the ancient Near Eastern world. Not a job Jewish males were supposed to be doing, feeding pigs. Didn't have any food. Decides he's just going to go home and say, "I'll be your hired servant." Crawls back to Dad. Dad sees him from a distance. Dad's on the porch watching, runs to him, hugs him, welcomes him home. The robe, the ring, the sandals, the fatted calf, the party goes on. And then last week, the son came back, the older son. He came back from the field, and he hears all this going on, and he asks one of the servants, "What is this?" And the servant tells him, "Your younger brother has come back, and your dad has killed the fatted calf to celebrate." And that's where we pick up today. Hear these words from Luke 15:28 through 30. "The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, 'Look, all these years I've been slaving for you, and I never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who has squandered your property with prostitutes, comes home, you killed a fatted calf for him.'" Okay, so the older son comes in from work, sees this going on. This is not normal. What is this? The servant explains it to him. And so he knows the younger son has come back. He hears that the younger son has come back, and now the older son, he's hurt, he's conflicted, he's upset, he's mad. In fact, he is so mad he won't go in the house. He refuses to go in the house. Back in the day, what they would have said where I grew up was he was so mad he could spit. Never even sure what that meant, but apparently that's really mad. And so he is outside on the porch, but he is not standing still, I picture. I picture he is pacing back and forth and muttering under his breath and pounding his fist. He's mad. He's just hurt. He's mad. He's trying to get this aggression out. Did you notice what Dad did? So the older son, he's mad. He refuses to come in. Got to assume the servant went and told Dad. How else would Dad know that he's even there? But Dad goes out looking for him. Did you notice that? Dad goes out looking for the older son. Sound familiar? Earlier in the story, Dad is on the porch looking for the younger son. Now he comes out on that same porch and he's looking for the older son. And what did he do once he found him? You know, it'd be easy to imagine that he said, "You just get your rear in that house right now, mister. Who do you think you are anyway? Who in the world do you think you are? I brought you into this world and I can take you out and make two more just like you. You don't get to throw fits, my friend. When I say jump, you say, 'How high, sir?'" I can picture that being a response here. But Dad doesn't do that. Dad doesn't scold. Dad doesn't berate. Dad doesn't yell. The word that was used is Dad pleads. Pleads. Not ask. Plead. Dad is pleading with his son. Be happy. Be happy that your younger brother is home. He was lost and he's found. He was dead and he's alive. Be happy that he's home. Come in and celebrate and be part of the family. Dad is pleading for this reuniting of his family. But the older son is not going to have any of it. He is not willing to be a part of it. And he sets the tone right out of the box. Did you notice the first word he says to Dad? Look! And there's an exclamation point after it. This isn't just look. This is look! He's mad. He wants his attention. Now, I don't know about you, but this seems to me like this betrays a kind of a deep disrespect that maybe he has for his dad. I think this shows that there's been some stuff going on that led up to this moment. I also don't know about you, but if I had started a conversation with my dad with, look! Well, when I regained consciousness, I would have apologized for that. But the older son doesn't. And this is not the big punch here. This is just the left jab. He's winding up for the right-handed knockout punch, and here it comes. He says, all those years I've been slaving for you. That is not the warm fuzzy you want when your kid comes home from work. Slaving. Slaving, he says. That's a very intentional choice. And he says, not only did I slave for you, but never, by the way, Dad, did I mention never? Never did I disobey your orders? Wow. So slave, he says, you made me a slave, first of all. Also orders. They weren't requests. They weren't suggestions. Dad gave him, as he interpreted at least, orders. I'm your slave and I never disobeyed your orders. It seems to me clearly that the older son is pretty hurt by what's going on. And it seems just as clear that he wants to hurt Dad too. He wants to hurt other people to bring them into where he's at. And so the older son then continues with the accusations. He says, you never even gave me a little goat so I could celebrate with my friends. I don't know about you, but in our day and age, that almost makes you want to chuckle. What? You're complaining about not getting a goat? What does that mean? But think about it. Your choice back in the ancient Near Eastern world, your little brother got a fatted calf, and you didn't even get goat. Dad's not even giving me boiled hot dogs, and he's grilling steak for my younger brother. That's kind of what we're looking at here. So it seems that there's this long, smoldering discontent glowing in the belly of this older son. Because he always had to be the grown-up. He always had to be the one who was more mature. He always had to step up to the plate. He always had to be counted. He always had to be the older brother, and the younger brother never had to be any of that. He got to just be the younger brother. Notice what he says then. I love the next words. He says, this son of yours, he can't even claim the kid as his brother. He won't say, my brother. He's not going to claim that relationship here. It's this son of yours, your son. Joanne and I joke about that all the time. We'll jokingly say, do you know what your son did? But this isn't a joke here. He's serious. He means it. He has that attitude. This is not my brother. This is your son who did this. So the older brother has a big old knife, and he has stuck it in Dad, and now he's just twisting it. That's really what's going on here. He's just trying to add insult to injury. And what did this son of yours do? This son of yours squandered your property on prostitutes, he says. And then he says, and how did you punish him for his behavior? You threw a big party for him. You killed the fatted calf for him. The truth is, if you want to look for proof that the older son is trying to inflict as much pain as possible, there it is, right there. Look no further than this passage. Among other things, nobody said anything about prostitutes in this story. That word hasn't come up. But the older son is much more than willing to start filling in the blanks out of his imagination and out of his anger. He's saying things that aren't in evidence. He's saying things just to be hurtful. And so he offers up this really sharp criticism of both Dad and younger brother. He's mad, he's hurt, and he wants everybody else to know it. So what's his motivation here? When you're an actor, when you're in acting training, that's always the big thing. What's my motivation in this scene? What's his motivation here? I mean, there's obviously anger. There's obviously frustration and exasperation. There's clearly some rage going on in this older son. But I would argue that that's just the symptoms. That's not the disease here. It's only the symptoms. Now, they're very real. Don't misunderstand me. He is feeling all of these things, but I think all of them point to something deeper that's going on in his life. What is that? I think it's two words, jealousy and pain. I think that's at the heart of what this older son is feeling. He's jealous. This older son is jealous because his idiot brother did all this stupid stuff and then came back, and what did he get for it but a huge pat on the back and a hero's welcome? That had to hurt. The older brother is in pain because he does the right thing all the time. Day in and day out, he's doing the right thing, and he gets nothing for it. I mean, he's a good boy. He sleeps with his socks on. And yet all Dad can do is ignore good old Gallant and praise Goofus all the while. Life's unfair, and then you die. It's kind of where the older son is. You know, in the Star Wars movie, Yoda says, fear leads to anger, and anger leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering. I think maybe they got that from this story, because here, jealousy leads to pain, and pain leads to frustration, and frustration leads to anger, and anger leads to hate. Because when you hurt, when you really hurt deep down in that place you don't like to talk about at parties, it's a really short trip to wanting everybody else to be miserable too. My life stinks, why don't you join me? Is kind of the attitude that's real easy to fall into. Misery loves company, they say. So where do you turn? Where do you turn when you find yourself there? When you're in the midst of jealousy and pain, you feel like you're in a pit with no bottom. Where do you turn? A pit with no bottom. That's where the older son is at the moment. Standing out on the porch, railing against his family with a party going on inside, full bore. Think about that. The older son is in a pit with no bottom. That's exactly the way we described the younger son a few weeks ago. Pit with no bottom. So where do you turn when you find yourself there? I shared last week that recently we had what's called Covenant Keepers. It's an event, 2-day event, day and a half or whatever, for the clergy in the Illinois Great Rivers Conference of the United Methodist Church. Our conference is basically the entire state of Illinois, south of Chicago, basically. So that's a lot of clergy. And we meet once a year in Peoria for this event. We meet later in the year again in Peoria for a little bit longer, bigger event. But this is called Covenant Keepers, and the clergy gather. This was a mixed bag one, as I've shared, because the first day was horrible, because they really picked some interesting speakers, shall we say. But the second day, we got to hear our new bishop. Pretty much that's all we did that day, was hear our new bishop, and it was great. He's an awesome guy. I'm thrilled that he is here. And one of the things he said to us was that there are two questions that he likes to ask. He likes to ask other people, and he said, I ask myself these questions too. It's not just you, he said, that I ask them of. I ask them of myself. And these two questions, you go ahead and go to one more slide. There we go. These two questions are really, really incredibly simple, and yet they are also deeply complex. And here's the first of those two questions. What's our business? What's our business? And then the follow-up, the second question, how's business? He likes to ask those two questions. What's our business and how's business? Well, if you're a shoe store or a restaurant, the answer to the number one question is pretty simple. Sell shoes, sell food. I get it. That's my business. And really the answer to the question number two is fairly simple too. You know, you look at your financial statements. If you're a shoe store or a restaurant, you look at your financial statements. They tell you a lot about how business is, but we're not a shoe store. And we're not a restaurant, although Ruth, we probably could be a restaurant, but technically we're not. We are the church. We're the body of Christ, the red-hot, 50,000 poppin' watt Church of Jesus Christ in Aledo and Mercer County. That's who we are. Okay. But what's our business? I think our business is printed on that banner right there. We exist to connect people to Jesus Christ. That's our business, right there. Okay, well, if that's our business, then the other question comes into play. How's business? How's business? Because we, too, could look at financial statements, and honestly, if we did, business is pretty darn good, right? We ended the year well. We're not rolling in dough, but we ended up with dough. We ended up paying all our bills and not in the red. And so, you know, if you looked at our financial statements, you'd go, well, business is pretty good for a church. And it's true that financial health is one indicator of how business is in a church, but it is not the only indicator, and it's not the most important indicator. Because we exist to connect people to Jesus Christ. And what that tells me is what I saw down here for prayer. We're responsible for each other. We're responsible to each other. And it's not just those of us who are here, those of us who are members, those of us who are coming. We're responsible to the people out there who don't even know us yet. We're responsible for the people in Mercer County who haven't met Jesus Christ yet. Because many of those folks, just like many of us, struggle with jealousy. And they struggle with pain. And they struggle with emptiness and meaning in their life. They feel like they don't matter. They feel like nobody would even notice if they were gone. Many people out there, and frankly many of us in here, feel like the older brother. So what do we do about that? What do we do about that? What can we do about that? Well, next week, we wrap up this series. We're going to bring the long journey home to a close next Sunday. And we're going to see how Dad, the father, we're going to see how the father reached out to his older son in the midst of his pain and in the midst of his jealousy. And it's going to be a great example for us as to how to live our lives. Not only to help us reach out to others, but also about how we can be open to those who are reaching out to us. Hear these words from Jude, the book of Jude, almost the end of the New Testament as we close. Beloved, although I was very eager to write to you about our common salvation, I found it necessary to write appealing to you to contend for the faith that was once for all delivered to all the saints. Would you pray with me? Father God, I thank you for this on